Hello, LionBolt Kingdom. So, something rather strange and frustrating happened to me recently that could have snowballed into something very serious, and that I feel I should share as a cautionary tale. The fake film scout scam. If you're meeting me for the first time, welcome. I'm LionBolt, self-published author of the Detective King urban fantasy book series, as well as a digital artist. Chapter 1, the email. It all started with an email. It's actually at my table selling at Anime Magic when I got an email from a Glenn Baines from the Greendot films. I won't read it word for word, but basically the email explained that he was a film scout and an executive producer at his studio, the Greendot films, a Mr. Paul McLean, wanted to produce a pitch deck to pitch at a supposed producers meeting to be held in October for a possible film adaptation of Detective King Book 1. He went on to say that I needed to provide a film synopsis, a logline, storyboard structure, characters and actors. I understood that to mean like character bios, film treatment, which is like a detailed outline of the story, a mood board, target audience, and most importantly, the screenplay. It's said to focus on submitting the professional screenplay with a special emphasis on having it being professionally made. That's important later. And it ended with the deadline of the last week of September 2023. Then at the bottom of the email was a professional looking logo here, along with phone numbers, a website, and a link to several professional looking press releases, and a PDF of a graphic explaining the timeline for getting a pitch for a movie or whatnot, which you can see right here. And in this PDF, it mentions the amount of the offer ranges from $200,000 to $2 million, and then 10 to 20% royalties. So that's what we were supposedly dealing with here. The website showcased a number of well-known films supposedly made by this studio, which claimed to be the successor to two different defunct studios. So you can see it looks professionally made. A lot of people might recognize those films. And the press releases included mentions things like reaching out to self-published authors and participating in film festivals, those sorts of things. It all looked quite professional. A search for Glenn Baines didn't come up with anything, but my brother, who was a film major, and I reasoned that a film scout wouldn't necessarily have like an IMDb page or anything. And there are several Paul McLeans in the film industry, so we assumed it was probably legitimate. I had also recently participated in a book contest that had mentioned producers looking over some of the submissions, so I assumed they'd found me through there. They weren't even asking for money after all, so with no reason to doubt them, we were led to Chapter 2, the script. So as I mentioned, my brother has a film degree from Columbia College, Chicago. He knows how to write scripts. I have some experience with screenplays myself. Detective King actually started from a short film project in a screenwriting class. I expanded into a series, and then adapted into book 1. So knowing we didn't have the budget for a professional service, we got to writing a film adaptation ourselves. We got together and completely restructured the plot of book 1 to fit the time constraints of a film, and got to writing, with my brother writing the bulk of the first 2 acts, while I worked on the more fantasy-heavy parts toward the end of the book. We got a late start on it, both because we were both busy with other things in August, and perhaps out of a latent suspicion I had in the back of my mind. But once we got started, we managed to put together a full-length film script, together in the span of about 2 weeks. It was the last week of September, and I pulled an all-nighter finishing up edits on the script, then spent an entire day writing up the film treatment, which is basically a scene-by-scene outline of the film in prose form, along with other supplementary materials, with the exception of the mood board and storyboard, which would have taken way too long to finish. We were actually pretty happy with the product we created. It still felt true to the book, but was more focused, and things flowed in different ways to accommodate the tight time constraints of a film. Rather than a series of mysteries building towards a climax like in the book, for instance, it became more of a rescue mission to save Lily, who was abducted in Other London, and that became the focus of the film, while also trying to hit some of the character beats central to the book. Interesting to see as a sort of alternate universe version of my story. Anyway, I had attempted to call the number listed below the email that was supposedly Glenn Baines' personal number to get confirmation of a set deadline, but it went to voicemail, and I decided that given the tight time constraints, I'd just forge on with writing the script. After emailing my materials, however, I attempted to call again, and the number was disconnected. I tried the studio's number, voicemail, at around noon California time on a Thursday. Clearly, something was fishy. Chapter 3, The Truth. I did another search, really digging this time, and came across a very recent blog post from September from writer Beware, talking about, you guessed it, the Greendot films, and how it was a fake film company and scam. I'll link the article in the description because it's a roller coaster of a read, but it details what may have happened had I fallen into their trap as they intended. Had I contacted them from the start, and had I not had the means to produce my own script, they would have offered to send it to their service provider, Better Bound House. They would have offered to pay half of the supposed cost, and it would have been an exorbitant amount of money for the script and all the additional materials. The article details the experience of an author who fell for their scam last time they ran it in the spring, which is referenced in one of their press releases, in fact. This author ended up paying over $40,000 for all their services. And apparently the scam would have continued to the point where they would have posed as a content acquisition director at Netflix to reel in even more cash. Thankfully, the article says the author got most of his money back, but there's very, very little information about the scam, as it's all quite recent, all this year, showcasing how hard it was for me to catch on. The email was well written, they had the PDF graphic, letterhead, phone numbers, website, press releases, and asked for no money up front. It all looked quite legitimate. It was only exposed when people unfortunately fell for the scam and did more extensive digging. The Greendot Films is not a registered company in the state of California, because they aren't the ones actually collecting the money. That would be Better Bound House, which is registered in Nevada, but is owned and run by a guy in the Philippines who has several such companies in various fields. Sadly, there are a lot of scams like this, both in the field of writing and in other fields like acting and music. Scam emails are getting harder to weed out as scammers adopt the use of AI to assist in writing professional-looking messages. Always be suspicious of any solicitation you receive. Do your research and look into any claims they make. Like, did this studio actually make this movie? For instance, on their website, they mention Inkart, which was made, in fact, by Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema. And Aragon was mentioned in one of their press releases, and that was 20th Century Fox and all these studios. You can look into how long ago an email domain was registered. The emails that I would have gotten from the Netflix person was registered only a few months ago, and if it was only made recently, that's a pretty big red flag. The article about Greendot also lists some other fake studios running similar scams, so again, I recommend looking that article over and writer Beware's blog in general. As for me, my brother registered the script I sent with the WGA. Thankfully, the strike ended a few days before I caught on to all this. So our rights are now protected, and in the event that this Arvin J. Passaporte tries to make money off Detective King, the money would go back to my brother and me. We plan on submitting the script to screenwriting competitions now in the hope of making something positive out of this experience, and I hope to collaborate with him again on future projects because it was really fun. So that's the story. It was kind of a bummer to waste all that time and have as much as $2 million dangled in front of me only to be fake. But we're gonna keep things positive and fight harder than ever. Who knows? Maybe someday we will get a Detective King movie or show. So I'm curious, have you ever fallen for a scam? Has anyone received messages from the Greendot films or another similar scammer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, likes and new subscribers are super appreciated. I have lots of content on writing, art, and being an indie creator planned, so come along for the ride. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.